Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for joining me for another Alfred Hitchcock Presents review. Today I will be talking about Season 2, Episode 28, One More Mile to Go, starring David Wayne as Sam. And another notable thing, this episode was directed by Alfred Hitchcock himself, and it really shows. This episode is a perfect example of how a pretty simple plot can be made into a very suspenseful episode. And this is definitely one of my favorite episodes of the first two seasons of Alfred Hitchcock Presents. It is really, really excellent, and I highly recommend it. So we start with a man, Sam, our main character, and he's arguing with his wife. We see this scene through a window. It's a very interesting point of view. And very abruptly, Sam kills her, does her in. Like I said, it's a very well done scene. And Sam now needs to cover his tracks. He's doing things like wiping off blood. Another notable thing, there's no dialogue in this scene, which I really appreciate. I always appreciate when a director can give us a story through visual storytelling. I thought that was an excellent job by Hitchcock. So Sam, of course, needs to get rid of the body. So he decides to drag it into the trunk of his car. Now, these first few parts of the episode actually take up a decent amount of the episode. It's a little bit deliberate, but it's never slow. I always feel like there's a difference, and I was interested in this scene the entire time. I was pretty much riveted by everything that was happening on screen. So Sam drives off, looking for a place to dump the body, and of course everything seems to be going okay until a police officer pulls up behind him. Sam is wondering why. He's very concerned. The officer explains to him that he has a tail light out. So Sam says, no problem, I'll get it fixed the next day. But the officer's pretty persistent. He says you could cause an accident. You need to get it fixed now. So he tells him where there's a service station. So Sam goes to the station to get the new light. And of course, the officer is also there at the station. It seems like he followed Sam there. So Sam is getting the light put in. The only problem is the service station attendant says this doesn't work. Something else must be wrong. So, of course, the officer comes to look and see what's going on, and he says there must be a wire messed up because it looks like the light is fine. And he says it's probably caused by your heavy trunk, as he notices that there's something heavy in the trunk. Sam says that it's his tools, but the officer wants to open the trunk anyway, but Sam says he doesn't have the key. So he says, can you just give me a ticket instead, because it'll be cheaper than you breaking up my trunk, the lock and everything. But the officer is still determined to open up the trunk no matter what. But just as he is about to open it, the tail light conveniently goes back on. Of course, because this is a television show episode. But I did think this was a little bit of a nice convenience in the script. But it worked, so you just got to kind of go with it. So at this point, Sam is still driving, and he's concerned that maybe he's still being followed. At first, it looks like he's not. But, eventually the officer pulls him over again, as the officer was following him. I do have to say, for a scene with a man just driving, wondering if he's being followed or not, this scene was very, very suspenseful. If anybody wonders why Alfred Hitchcock was nicknamed the Master of Suspense, this is probably a good scene to show people to understand why. So the officer is talking to him again, and he says, you forgot your change back at the station. So Sam is making some pretty basic mistakes if you're trying to hide a body, but that's because he's tense. So it turns out at this point the officer's ready to leave, but he says your tail light is out again. And so the officer says, I have an idea. Why don't you follow me to the police headquarters because it's close by? And Sam really doesn't have a choice at this point. And as he drives off following the officer, his light really does have a mind of its own as it's flickering on and off, which kind of worked for me. It's almost like a thing where a character's getting where they deserve. It's almost like the light having a mind of its own is kind of like justice, if you want to look at it that way. Although, like I said, it is a little bit convenient to the plot. As well. Seems like a little bit of a plot device, but it works pretty well overall. And One More Mile to Go is an excellent episode. Like I said, one of my favorites, and I'm going to give it a 4.5 out of 5. Definitely an episode that I feel like fans of this series should watch. I do feel this is an essential episode and a perfect example of why Alfred Hitchcock is one of the all-time great directors, and David Wayne's performance is also very good as well. So 4.5 out of 5 for One More Mile to Go, and as always, thank you very much for watching.